From South Carolina Public Radio, this is the South Carolina Lede. I'm your host, Gavin Jackson, and this episode was recorded on April 3rd, 2025 from South Carolina Public Radio Studios here in Columbia. A little programming note, we will be dropping Tuesday's pod a little bit later on Tuesday. That doesn't mean we don't love you or that you're not as special. We're just going to be a little bit later, so bear with us. And still daylight savings time stuff, you guys know. It's not an April Fool's joke, a delayed April Fool's joke, just be aware. But to this episode, we close out the Table Rock Complex fires with a final update. We look at the utility bill that moved through the Senate late Wednesday, as well as the anti-DEI bill that went through the House. And the major tax reform and reduction bill hit the skids, as the financial impact of it was revealed this week. Speaking of hitting the skids, don't let us hit the skids. Give us a call, 843-999. Oh, wait, no, that's the wrong one. That's different. 803-563-7169. If you have a phone, you have the ability to call us toll-free night and day. Leave us a message. Let us know about your favorite outdated catchphrase that we could maybe incorporate into a title of a future podcast. Wow, think about that. You could tell your friends, yeah, I told them that. 803-563-7169 is your gateway to infamy. Let's start off with an update on the Table Rock Complex fires that we've been following up in the upstate, which have burned more than 13,850 acres, making it the largest fire in state history over the past 2 weeks up there in Greenville and Pickens counties. And of course, thanks to a concerted firefighting effort and better weather conditions, the fire is now 90% contained. Much different story than we were a week ago, just a few days ago. Now, Mike Brode, Operations Section Chief, gave this final update on the fires Thursday and talked about containment. This is from Facebook.
That was no small feat for sure. There was over 60 miles of fire perimeter on the Table Rock Complex, and we were able to get around all of it while we've been here. We're showing black all around the fire perimeter for both the Table Rock fire as well as the Persimmon fire. In addition, after shift yesterday, we received between half to 1 inch of additional rainfall, which will just further secure the fire area and provide us an extra sense of confidence and security as we close out the incident.
The fires first started on March 21st, allegedly due to the incorrect disposal of cigarette butts by 3 teenagers. The fire quickly spread, leading the governor to declare a state of emergency and burn ban statewide the next day, and dry conditions and an ample supply of debris on the ground from Hurricane Helene, which hit the upstate area as a tropical storm last September, fueled the fire over the days and even led to its doubling at times, which required multiple aerial assets and firefighting teams to tackle its spread and prevent destruction of property. And no one died. No one got injured. That's great stuff. Now, in Columbia, let's come on back down 26 to Columbia at the State House, where lawmakers took up several major bills in the 12th week of the legislative session as the sprint to sine die, the last day of session on May 8th, is rapidly approaching. Senators who have led the investigation into the $1.8 billion accounting error boondoggle on state books introduced a bill to impeach State Treasurer Curtis Loftus after he failed to correct errors back to 2017 on state books and misled the state into believing that the money was real. He also verbally attacked members of the Senate during some hearings, which you've heard on this podcast. Berkeley Republican Senator Larry Grooms introduced the measure Wednesday and laid out the steps forward.
To remove Treasurer Loftus from his office for willful neglect of his duty. In order to facilitate this resolution, it will be necessary to pass a sense of the Senate resolution, and I intend to return to the sense of the Senate resolution later today. A copy of the sense of the Senate resolution is being laid on your desk even as we speak. I'd ask that you read over it today. To highlight the sense of the Senate resolution, we will return in session as a committee of the whole. A committee of the whole is spelled out in your Jefferson's manual for certain circumstances of a high nature. We will assemble as a committee of the whole. The Senate will be the presiding officer, at which time Senator Goldfinch and I will present the causes for removal. Upon that, the Treasurer Loftus and his counsel, should he have counsel, will have 3 hours to present a defense. After he presents his defense, Senator Goldfinch and I will then have 30 minutes for rebuttal and to have other remarks. After that, each member of the Senate would be allotted 10 minutes to ask questions.
This is the most significant development from the fallout of this boondoggle, as others involved, including Comptroller General Richard Ekstrom and State Auditor George Kennedy, have resigned amid a forensic audit, that ongoing Securities and Exchange Commission investigation, and millions of dollars spent to remedy the ongoing problem. Loftus has admitted to limited involvement, but says he will not resign, and that's what's prompting this unprecedented impeachment trial in the Senate on April 21st, which you'll be able to watch on SCTV. Georgetown Republican Senator Stephen Goldfinch, who you've also heard on this podcast, will be the special prosecutor on the matter. Here's a previous interaction with Goldfinch and Loftus, one of several that the Senate Finance Committee is pointing to when it comes to the treasurer's statements and temperament around this matter.
I've listened to 2 or 3 interviews you've given, and in those 2 or 3 interviews, you have clearly said in one interview, $170 to $190 million in interest was made on this $1.8 billion. Isn't that true?
Yes, sir.
The last interview I heard, you said $250 million had been made in interest on that account. Isn't that true?
That's right, because we ran the papers.
Okay, which is correct, 170 or 250?
Give me a second. I got it right here. We ran the information. The first one, I got an estimate. The second one, we refined it. And then I said, send it off to another bank and make sure and double check it. So it's $225 million. Oh, here it is right here.
Full impeachment will require a 2/3 vote of the Senate and the House. Now, Loftus, who has previously run on term limits, said this week he will seek a 5th 4-year term, which, if he is impeached, he will actually be able to do if the voters support him. Sticking with the Senate, they debated long into the night Wednesday before passing a bill to increase energy generation in the state by loosening some regulations and allowing Dominion Energy and state-owned utility Santee Cooper to build a new 2,200-megawatt gas-fired plant in Colleton County. The so-called Energy Security Act would streamline the regulatory process for utilities seeking to build and operate new power plants and would also give regulators the ability to expedite applications for new generation facilities. Now, changes made to the bill include the prohibition of state-level incentives for more data centers, which have been fueling this demand for energy. Now, the bill, which has passed the House, as you know, has been a priority this session, though Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey was one of the 3 who voted against it.
I think Santee Cooper ought to finance the whole thing by themselves.
Amen.
Right? I think Santee Cooper should finance the whole project by themselves for a couple reasons. Number one, Santee Cooper can borrow money cheaper than Dominion can borrow money. They're a public entity. They can save a lot of money on the borrowing costs. On the back end, Santee Cooper doesn't get a return, but Dominion would. I think Santee Cooper should pay for the whole thing themselves, and I think they should enter into a power purchase agreement with Dominion where they would sell half the power that's generated to Dominion. Right? You will save customers hundreds of millions of dollars if you do that, from the interest savings and there not being a return on the back end. You will save hundreds of millions of dollars on a $5 billion project. And then I think really on the back end, you also have the opportunity for Santee Cooper to securitize the loan and save even more money. Ladies and gentlemen, I think in something like this, I think you could actually save over $500 million for customers. Right? That matters. Now, you still got customers paying for 2 power plants and only getting 1, but you're at least saving some money back there.
That goes back to the House, where over in the House, the chamber passed its anti-DEI bill, H. 3927, along party lines Wednesday. The bill defines DEI as, quote, any preferences, mandates, policies, programs, activities, guidance, regulations, enforcement actions, consent orders, or requirements implemented by a public entity that constitutes illegal discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, quote. Now, with the exception of federal law requirements, public entities cannot use DEI in hiring or college admissions, in preferential treatment, offices, or require that someone participate in DEI programs or training. That's what's in this bill. Richland Democratic Representative Jermaine Johnson was outspoken against the measure.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion is not bad. That's what makes this state so beautiful. It's the fact that I can come in here in my dashiki and you all can ask me questions about what I'm wearing. And I can educate you all on where it came from. I can give you a lesson. I can say this is part of my heritage because I wouldn't do you the same if you came in here with your Native American garb on. I wouldn't do you the same if you came in here with your Irish kilt on. I wouldn't do you the same if you came in here with your Italian clothes on. But for some reason, when I walk in here with a dashiki, as I did a couple of years ago, I was asked if I was going to throw spears. I wouldn't be looked at when I'm walking down the steps of these grounds and I'm walking with another member and he likes to drop the N-word, one of your white Republican members. But racism is not here. It doesn't exist.
Representative Harriet Holman of Dorchester became the first black female Republican elected to the House last November, and she spoke in favor of the measure while touting her long military career based on merit.
DEI is not going to be the force of the future that shapes our doctors, lawyers, and our military officers. We need here in South Carolina a meritocracy. We need to reward talent, hard work, and determination. I am not going to allow anyone to measure my success by DEI. It is not based on my identity. It is based on my hard work.
And Representative Josiah Magnuson, a Spartanburg Republican who was a member of the far-right House Freedom Caucus that has pushed this measure for years, said the legislation isn't related to the big push by President Donald Trump and his executive order.
One thing that's been mentioned today is that this is somehow about Trump or about what's going on in Washington, D.C. Well, I'm grateful for Trump and for the efforts that he has, that he's put forward, the executive order, pushing back. But really, the issue of DEI goes back decades. This is something that did not just happen overnight. This is something that has been going on. And if you really want to go all the way back, it goes to Karl Marx, Saul Alinsky, critical theory in the early 1900s, and the whole idea that we should be putting wedge issues into the culture that can divide people on the basis of classes, on the basis of their sex or their race, and that is something that has been advanced throughout our culture, unfortunately, and it's something we need to be pushing back against. Again, we need to be treating people as individuals, not as groups, and I believe that's what this bill moves us toward.
The bill is off to the Senate. And despite a major rollout by Republican leadership last week, a tax reform plan that would lower and flatten income taxes in the state from 6.2% to 3.9% has hit turbulence, rocky seas, speed bumps, etc. After an economic study of the bill found it would initially raise taxes. Here's House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Bruce Bannister.
What it does, it puts everybody has some skin in the game. In South Carolina, there's no such thing as an average taxpayer. Every individual taxpayer at every level of income is treated differently. So there's no way to say, oh, this is what happens to everybody in this income level, because it's never the same. It's always different. And you can look at the tables and the taxes that folks pay. We have people earning $1 million in earned income that are paying zero income tax. And then we have people at the lowest level, $10,000 in income, who are paying more than their fair share. They're paying 6.2%. So when you look at that, what we're trying to do is go to a more flat, fair tax that applies to everybody the same. You should be able to anticipate what your taxes will be based on what you make, and we want that number to be as low as it possibly can be. There, like I said, there's people who don't pay any income tax, and they're in the highest of earners, the top 1%, who have apparently very good accountants who are taking advantage of the system to basically contribute zero to South Carolina. There's also a very large number of filers who use the system to pay zero. The 44% of our South Carolina filers do not pay any South Carolina income tax. They pay federal tax. They don't pay any South Carolina income tax. Obviously, if you apply a fair, flat tax to all taxpayers, those people who have gamed the system and pay zero will now pay the 3.99% down to the 2.49 at the end of this process.
Lancaster Republican Representative Brandon Newton, chair of the subcommittee, asked Bannister whether this was going to be a tax swap.
Does this bill do any kind of changes to property or sales tax to offset the revenue we are cutting from our state revenue?
There is no offset in this bill where we are raising additional revenue from any other source. This is an income tax shift to a flat tax that applies to a broad base to get as low a rate as we can get without playing the games of raising an income or raising the sales tax or changing property tax or trying to reduce exemptions in our sales tax to raise additional revenue. We're gonna raise revenue by having South Carolinians do better in the state of South Carolina and make more money, not by gaming the tax system.
There would be some initial pain with some folks having to pay more in taxes, as withholding tables also would change. Revenue and Fiscal Affairs Director Frank Rainwater here talks about how many folks would see an increase. Here's Frank and Brandon.
With Table 2, I mean, there's a shift here because you have the first impact. With Table 2, after you have this first implementation here, after that, you're simply reducing the tax rate on that point. And I think to answer your question, Mr. Chairman, once you start reducing it, 23% of the people will have no change in liability, and so 23 will have no change. 77 will start getting 77% will start getting a tax decrease by the rate change after that point.
Yeah, so no one would get a tax increase once fully implemented on the current estimates.
Well, go from the change going forward, it's all a tax decrease for everybody.
That's right. And you know, I think one thing, Mr. Rainwater, I've always noticed about our tax system is how unfair it has kind of become. It seems to be an extremely progressive income tax in the way that it applies to people. I think I remember seeing a stat one time that the top 10% pay 2/3 of the income tax or some really high number like that. Can you talk about just the situation we find our current income tax in, the unfairness, the issues that happen with that?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Well, I mean, a lot of these are policy decisions that y'all have to answer, but based in 2003, our estimates at that time, you had approximately 44% of the people, 44% of the filers without a tax liability. As you mentioned, approximately 10% paid about 2/3 or 11%, somewhere. That's on our line. I'm sorry, I don't remember those numbers. So it's very much skewed to one side. With this change in the rates and changing the deductions and exemptions, you're somewhat leveling that out a little bit more. You're only losing $200 million in revenue, but that burden gets reallocated throughout the tax bracket.
Frank's office, which does the economic impact study for legislation, found that under a 3.99% rate, 21% of returns would see no change to their taxes. 19% of returns will see lower rates, and 59% of returns would see an increase in taxes. Here's the rub, folks. Here's the turbulence. Now, filers with no tax liability would drop from 44% to 23%, so more people would be paying taxes. Now, eventually, the goal would be to get to a 2.49% rate, which would be implemented over time after enough state revenue growth. Now, at this point, again, you got to get up to get down. At this point, RFA estimates that 77% of filers would see a decrease in their taxes, while 23% would see no change. Anyway, with the bill, which has been worked on for months and rolled out with a big shebang last week, it's on the skids. It makes you realize just how hard it is to make changes to the tax system and why such changes haven't been made. Welcome to the wind down section, our little break from the news. We're glad you're here with you. Me and A.T. Shire, lead podcast
Nice
producer.
job landing that one right there.
Well, you know, it's a little rocky, but we got it. Please do not stand up because we're taking off again. That's right, we're going back to the skies.
Gavin lives for being in the skies.
You know.
Gavin, the idea of soaring high and feeling good and free in the air.
Reading Rainbow?
That's not us.
Reading Rainbow?
Because we got no calls. Okay?
No.
We're dirty things stuck on the ground.
Dry. The hoppers as dry as the ground.
Dry as the ground.
Fueled the
Gavin,
fires.
dry as the ground.
Dry as the ground
It's
that fueled
not
the
good.
fires.
It's not good. But that means I get to talk about what I want to talk about.
Geez,
okay?
thanks. Goodness. Thank you, everyone.
Well, old listeners of the pod, people who've been listening for a while, they know that my wife, she says things sometimes that aren't exactly right.
Get a load of this.
Okay. She says things that they're just, she calls skyscrapers sky rises. That's a great word. When we were arguing, she said, the dog's in your court. That's a classic, okay? But it was her birthday, so I'm thinking about her. She's great. It was her birthday. Happy birthday, Caitlin. But we were out golfing.
On the links.
And a cardinal swooped by the cart. Okay?
Beautiful bird.
Beautiful bird.
Beautiful bird. Red.
And Caitlin goes, oh, a red jay. And I was like, you know what?
We're going to keep it.
We're keeping it. That's a red jay.
My father, who gave me this podcast. Founder, Joseph. His name to friends, Jay.
Yes.
Allegedly, after he was born, his mother saw a blue jay.
Okay.
So a sign there. Mm-hmm. My name, Gavin, in Scottish means white hawk.
So white
there's
jay.
a lot of. So I'm actually, we called Dad Bird. Birdman.
Okay. Bird.
Jay Bird.
That's cool. Coltrane.
My Secret Service name is Baby Bird since I'm the youngest, and I don't remember anyone else's.
Baby Bird coming in.
Oh, just Baby Bird. Because everyone's always like picking me up at the airport or something like that.
Always regurgitating food into your mouth.
Baby Bird. So Colin has bird tattoos, of course.
Of course, go birds, you know?
Oh, there you go.
This is a hard go birds pod.
I want to go back to what Kaylin and her words, you know me and my words are always very tricky too, but this reminds me of a Wall Street Journal article I just came across. I love the Wall Street Journal. You guys know me. You know I love the Journal.
Gavin likes two things, New Yorker cartoons and the Journal.
That's where I get all my news from, exclusively New Yorker cartoons. The Journal just fills in the blanks for me.
Yeah, and Kathy.
But there's this piece, Ford executive who kept score of colleagues' verbal flubs. Mike O'Brien kept a meticulous log of mixed metaphors and malapropisms uttered in meetings over a decade.
That sounds fun to me.
And they said, too many cooks in the soup. Let's not reinvent the ocean. I don't want to sound like a broken drum here, but I don't feel like I mix my metaphors.
No.
I do it intentionally, but I don't.
Caitlin is full of these, but I mean,
wild.
This has led to us calling every bird a jay of whatever color it is. Crow, black jay. Yeah, seagull, white jay. Okay.
Oh gosh.
Anything's a jay, and I love that. That's fun. It's fun, and I think we should petition.
Oh, we got to probably talk to the Audubon Society.
Yes, the Audubon Society. That is so difficult for me seeing that Audubon. That should be cars. That should be cars.
Read between the tea leaves.
We all agree. Oh, yeah.
I'm not trying to beat a dead horse to death. Oh, my God, who does these?
Yeah, these are great. I love these.
No, yeah, so that would be something to do. I don't know if I'd be that meticulous, but that's just not me. But I do love, I love my metaphors.
Yeah, but, Red Jay, I think, is an absolute winner. If anyone else has something, these malapropisms, let us know, please.
I do get some birds confused. I feel like I want to see more Orioles being a Marylander, but it just turns out to be a robin.
And every time.
That's a lighter red jay, if you will. And then orange jay is your
garden variety Oriole.
No, I don't know about the Carolina wren, state bird Carolina wren.
Yeah, well, we have to look it up, see what color it is. Goldfinch, yellow jay.
Yellow jay. Stephen, yellow jay. Goldfinch.
Yeah.
Let's start calling him Yellow Jay.
You got to let him know. Okay.
I got a question for Senator Yellow Jay. I'm like,
yeah, he should change.
Get it.
He should change his placards and stuff. It'll be an easy swap. But you're welcome. It's all due to the pod, all due to my wife, and happy birthday, Caitlin.
Happy birthday, Caitlin. And also, just while we're wrapping up on birds, a lot of people don't like birds, which I find fascinating.
I'm a huge birds guy.
I don't care for crows or pigeons, but they don't bother me. Besides their surveillance efforts.
I honestly kind of like crows. Pigeons, you're right.
You're just saying that
pigeons.
because they can hear us.
They're smart.
And they're planning.
They're smart. They are planning. They are Planet
I
of the
love the
Otter.
movie The Birds, though. Don't. Oh God, I loved it.
I mean, just there's something special about saying "Go Birds" in any sort of situation, be it real birds or mascots
Yeah.
or birds in golf, birdies in golf. You know, eagles, birds, albatrosses, even.
Tippy Hedren's still recovering.
Yes. Anyway, people, I will
Give
be
us
in
your birthday
Vegas. I'm going to be in Las Vegas. That's why it's late on Tuesday. So if you're listening to
Bury
this,
the lead there.
if you're listening to this and you have any place to go, just know that I do not like Las Vegas, and don't tell me a big Vegas-y place,
Guys,
okay? But do tell me,
But
please.
that is the hugest little, the biggest little thing the biggest little, wow, look at me, I'm doing my mixed metaphors.
You're doing it, dude.
Wow.
You're
my
doing
life. My life. No, I'm so excited. We have so much to look forward to in our next wind down because we can't even fathom what you're going to experience over the next couple days.
I think we can guess. Indoor smoking. Yeah, exactly. Indoor smoking.
Listen, this wind down brought to you by Altria. Yeah.
I'm dreading
That's
seeing
flavor.
the sphere. That is just an
It's going
abomination.
to start blinking at you.
I'm not looking forward to it. I think I will hate it. It is bright all night. Anyway,
can't
Gavin.
wait.
Much to look forward to.
Can't wait.
Gavin, baby bird.
Baby bird out.
There you go.
Caw, my listeners. Fly. Well, you can leave us a message, talk about birds, talk about avian-related issues, egg prices. They're all welcome here at 803-563-7169. And, of course, you can always show us your appreciation by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. That's cool, too, if you're not into the bird talk. But you can stay up to date with the latest news on scetv.org and southcarolinapublicradio.org. And don't forget to support your local newspapers. The South Carolina Lede is a production of South Carolina Public Radio. Our producer is A.T. Shire. Amy Crouch is our supervising producer. Sean Birch is our executive producer. This podcast is produced with support from PRX and is made possible in part by a grant from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, as well as listener contributions to the ETV Endowment of South Carolina. For the South Carolina Lede, I'm Gavin Jackson. Be well, South Carolina.
When's the last time you heard a dad say that? I gotta bring it back. I'm in a position to do this now, right?
I'm merely a cat bringing you a dead bird.
Thank you, yes.